This week we'll be learning how to make 3 projects. A stretch button bracelet, a button bouquet, and the multi-strand bracelet with a button accent. Today I'm going to teach you a few different projects that you can make with buttons. 2 of them are jewelry and 1 isn't, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But before we get started, I wanted to just kind of give you a little bit of a creativity tip or a creativity booster. Since starting my YouTube video series, I have gotten some comments and some emails from some people who have tried maybe one of the projects and then failed. They feel very disappointed. They feel like they shouldn't even be trying to make jewelry. And I just wanted to tell you that's not actually the case. The truth is, it takes a long time to learn a new skill. So while I may be teaching you beginners or starting techniques, it doesn't mean you can instantly make them. It just means that you're learning a new thing. Think about learning to do anything when you first started. Think about learning how to ride a bike. Most likely, you didn't hop on a bike and start riding. You practiced. You did it again and again. You got off your bike. You fell off your bike. You got back on, and you kept going. And it's the same way with any skill, any art, any craft, and the same way with jewelry. So if you're trying to make an elastic stretch bracelet, which was episode 1, and when you go ahead and pull it apart before you trim it and see if it sticks and all your beads fall down, it's okay. Just practice making that knot again and again until you get it. Restring the beads, start over again. Yeah, I know it's frustrating, but really, resilience is the key to getting good at anything. Keep trying, keep practicing, email me with questions. I'll try to help you if I can, and just keep at it. Before we get started on our projects today, I just wanted to let you know that in my Etsy shop, I actually have a ton of buttons for sale. If you remember back to episode 2, I said I was going to reduce my craft supplies by 50%, and I did it. So now I am selling off some of that sort of stuff on Etsy. So you find me on Etsy at kimberlykoehler.etsy.com, and I'll put a link down in the description. So if you need buttons, I am also a great resource for buttons. Also in my Etsy shop, you'll find a lot of my digital tutorial ebooks and that sort of thing. So if you like what you see, and you want to learn more, that's a great place to go to find more about some of my products that I have. So let's get started. To make a stretch button bracelet, this is what you're going to need. You're going to need elastic cord. This is what I use. It's Beadalon. It's 0.5 millimeters and it's clear. This is the only beading cord that I think I've ever used. This exact brand and this exact kind. I had a question about this on my blog, and the person was using a thinner beading cord and having some problems. I don't know if that's the cause of the problem or not, but what I suggested is just, if you have a thinner cord, to just maybe double it up and then use the 2 strands together and see if that works. And just make sure you're making the knot the way I show you. Also, sometimes they do suggest using glue with this elastic cord. I've never done it, so I can't tell you that it's better or worse. I've never had bracelet come apart because I always double check it before I wear it. So I don't personally think it's necessary, but if you would like to do that, then give it a try. And I'm sure you will find that glue wherever you find the cord. So you need that. You just need as much to go around your wrist and then some extra length at the end. You need buttons. And this one I'm using, I actually have several sets of these same buttons for sale in my Etsy shop, like I mentioned. So if you want to make this exact bracelet that I am, then if you go to my Etsy shop, you will find the beads I'm using. Actually, they're buttons, not beads. I am always intermixing those two words. And you also need a pair of scissors to cut the elastic. So let's get started. So I am cutting my elastic. I am measuring around my wrist, and I am leaving approximately, I'd say, a good foot extra. If you are having trouble making knots, if you watched episode 1, that's another thing I suggest. Make your elastic much longer, and then you'll have more room to make your knots. Alright, and then we need our beads. So to make this, you just pick out a bead. Now this is a 2-hole bead. You may also have 4-hole beads. I don't see one in here, but if you have a 4-hole bead, then just pick 2 diagonal holes in it. And you're going to take the elastic and go up through the hole, 1 hole, and back down through another hole. And then just pull it down, leaving a good bit of room at the end of your elastic so that you have room to knot it at the end. Then you just pick another bead. Here's a 4-hole bead. So I'm going to go up through 1 hole. And then I'm going to go diagonal. Oop. And go back down. And then you just pull. Now, how the beads are going to end up is kind of like this, back to back. So the next one you do will be like the first one, and it will go this way. So the back will be, these two will be going the same direction, and then the next one will be going this way. So every other button will go that way. So I actually want to pick a different one. This button has a different sort of back, so I'm just going to slide the elastic through and then pull it close, and you just keep pulling everything in close. They're going to be kind of overlapping each other. And let me see, here's a shank button, so we just kind of pull it through. Same thing again. So you're just going to keep repeating this and pulling everything so it's kind of overlapped, and then do that until you get the length of your wrist. Once your bracelet is long enough that it fits around your wrist without stretching, because you're going to need a little bit of stretch because your hand is a little bit bigger than your wrist to get it on. So once it goes around your wrist without pulling it to stretch it, then you have beaded enough, or actually, I guess, buttoned enough buttons on it, and you're ready to tie it off. I want to say a couple things about buttons first, though. I used a whole variety of different buttons of different sizes, different types. You can do that, or you can use all the same button and make it really uniform. The only thing you're just going to want to watch while you're making your bracelet is that every other one goes back and forth, like I mentioned before, and when you're using different sizes and different types, sometimes they can get a little bit tangled up and flipped around, so you might want to watch that. But really, at the end, as long as the bracelet fits around your wrist, however the buttons are, and you like how the buttons look, that's all that really matters. So that's all I wanted to say about that. Now we're going to tie this bracelet. I'm going to show you on the bracelet, and then I'm going to show you how to do it with a really dark piece of yarn so that you can see the idea a little bit better, because it's very obviously hard to see the elastic cord because it's clear and it's tiny. But I wanted to show you on this too, so let me show you. So you just take the bracelet and you're going to start to tie it kind of like if you were tying your shoes. So you go around and through the hole, and you can pull that one tight, and then you're going to do the same thing again, and then you're going to twist the right side around one more time, and then twist the left side in and back out again, and then you pull it tight. Alright, and then before I trim off any of the extra cord, which as you see I used a lot of extra because it's easier to make a knot that way, and I wanted to show you that. But before you trim it off, you want to pull, and here's a prime example, and check to make sure that your knot stayed, and mine didn't. So probably when I was doing it, I did something wrong, so we're just going to try it again. And this is what I'm talking about, what I was talking about earlier. I've been making jewelry I've been making this type of bracelet for my entire life, basically, and every once in a while, something's not going to work right. So, just try it again. Alright, I'm talking and trying to do this, and it's not working. So, I did the first part of the knot, and now I'm doing it again, and then you flip that side through again, and we'll pass this side through again, and then pull it tight. And sometimes it helps if you pull on both ends, both sides of the wire, or the cord, so everything pulls together. And this time I have it. So that is how you tie a knot on the elastic bracelet, and then you just take your scissors and trim this close to the knot. But hold on a second, and I will show you how to do this on yarn so you can see it a little better. So, pretend this is the bracelet. And I will show you how to tie this knot. So you'll start it like any normal knot, like you're tying your shoe. So you just cross and put one end under and bring it back up. Then you do the same thing again, but before you pull it tight, you're going to wrap this end around again. Oops. And then this end around again. And then you pull the knot. Alright, let me show you one more time. Just make sure you have it. Here's our bracelet. These are the ends that we need to tie. So you cross, put one end under, and then you do it again like you're tying a double knot. And then you put each end around again. And then you pull the knot. And that makes for a more secure bracelet. Our next project isn't really a jewelry project. It's what I like to call a button bouquet. But it does involve similar techniques, and it's really a lot of fun. So let's get started. For this project, you will need some floral wire, and you can find this at art and craft supply stores. It comes in big packages. It's inexpensive. It's green. There's different gauges of the wire, so I actually don't know exactly what gauge this is. It seems like it's about 20 gauge, and you get like a whole bunch in a pack. It's pretty long. I can't even get it all in the picture. And you find that, like I said, at the craft supply store. You can use regular jewelry making wire if you like. Like I said, just use 20 gauge. But I like the floral wire because it's green, so it looks like a stem. And also, it's much less expensive. So that is a bonus as well. And then you'll need buttons again. And again, I'm using the same buttons I used for my other bracelet. And you'll just need a variety of shades and colors and types and sizes. And then you'll need a pair of pliers, which you might be able to do this without, but it's easier if you do have the pliers. And you can use any pliers. You can just go to your toolbox and get a pair. These pliers I actually did get from my dad's tool chest. I borrowed them once when I was visiting. I liked them, so I asked him if I could have them, and he said sure. So these are not any kind of special jewelry pliers. You can use your jewelry pliers though if you have them. To get started, we're just going to pick out a few buttons. I like to stack the buttons from largest to smallest, and you can play with the design however you like. I just wanted to say a couple of things though. These shank buttons, the ones that don't have a hole like through them like these, but they have sort of the hole that goes through this way, they work basically really only at the top. You can sometimes maybe put a couple at the top, but really, I mean, you can't really stack them, so you're going to need to use them at the top. So when you're picking out different beads to use, and I'm sorry, they're buttons, and I keep calling them beads, so I am sorry. To me, they're kind of similar to beads, I guess, because I'm using them that sort of way. And actually, in fact, you could put a bead in the top of this too, if you like. So I'm just going to pick out a couple of buttons here that I like, and just going to have just kind of stack them up and see how you like them. Alright, and I'm actually going to use 4 for this project. Now, this is so simple and so much fun. You just pick out, grab one of your wires, one of your floral wires, and you're just going to loosely fold it in half. bend it in half. Like that. And then you're going to start with the top bead and work down. So whatever you want to be on the top of your flower, use first. So in my case, I'm using this shank bead. So I'm going to slide that on and put that in the middle. And then next I'm going to put this bead on. It has 4 holes, so I'm just going to use diagonal holes, or actually holes that are across from each other. And you just put one end of the wire in each hole. And then slide it all the way up. Like that. And that's what we have so far. It's okay. As you do this, you might bend your wire a little. You can just kind of take your fingers and bend it to be straight again. And then you just keep adding all your buttons. Until they're all on. So I sort of have a stack here now. And now you just simply twist. And this is where the pliers come in handy. So the first twist I do very close to the bottom button. And I just go around a couple times and make sure this is nice and secure. And then you just keep moving your pliers down and twisting your wire. And actually, as you can see, I actually twist the buttons and hold the wire. And as you twist, just keep moving your pliers down further. And I know this looks a little crooked. It's okay. At the end, we'll straighten it back out. And as you go down, you'll find the end might get wider. As you can see, it's happening to me. So just kind of pull it back in together so it's easier to twist. Alright, and if you end up with one that's longer than the other, then you will need a pair of wire cutters. And actually, I believe these pliers, as many pliers that you get from just a regular, like a hardware store or whatever, they actually have wire cutters in them. Unlike jewelry pliers, which make you actually purchase your wire cutter separate. So you can just trim off the end if you end up with one end longer than the other. It's not a big deal. And then you can just go back with your fingers and straighten your wire back out, or what this would be the stem. And that is how you create a little flower. And then you just repeat until you have a whole bouquet, if that's what you want to do. So these are really simple and cute and so much fun, and you get to use up your button collection and then display them in really cute ways. Alright, another project that includes a button is this multi-strand bracelet with a big button accent. This is actually one of my most popular tutorials I ever did on my blog, so I'll refer you to check out KimberlyKoehler.com to get the details, but I'll show you how to get started on a bracelet like this. The stringing part is basically the same once you hit the button onto the wire, and you just make it as many strands as you want. This one is 8 strands. You may want maybe just a few strands, or you could make it just 1 strand and maybe use some chunkier beads with it, and that would be a really cute look too. So I'll show you how to get started on making a bracelet like this. I just did want to say the bead I used here, the button and the beads are both from Joann Fabrics. I really loved this button, and the beads are a really beautiful color as well. But you can get buttons from anywhere, including my Etsy shop, which I mentioned before, and I'm going to show you how to get started on this project. So for this project, you will need a button, and this is one that I particularly love. I had a lot of them, so I'm selling extra ones I have in my Etsy shop. I don't mean to sound like a commercial, but I do have a lot of buttons there right now. It's pretty big, as you can tell, and I think that's important, and I love the cutouts in it. You'll need some beads, and like I said, for the original project I used seed beads, but you might want to just try using bigger, chunkier beads to go with it instead, and maybe just doing 1 or 2 strands. You need beading wire. You need wire cutters to cut the wire. You'll need a crimp bead tool, or you can just use pliers to close the crimp beads. And then you're going to need crimp beads for each strand. I use 2 on each end, so you need 4 per strand, plus crimp bead covers. And like I said, depending on how many strands you have is how many crimp beads you'll need. So let's get started on the project. So the first step in making a bracelet is to decide how many strands you want to use. You could use several strands, or maybe you just want to use 1 strand with some big beads to go with the button. Maybe you just have a small button you're going to use, so maybe 1 or 2 strands would be more appropriate. In this original bracelet I made, this button's large, and I used 8 strands, and it really makes a statement. It's nice and big and chunky. So make a decision on that. If you're going to be making one like this one, you're going to have seed beads, so you might want to have several strands. If you want to use different beads, like some bigger, maybe some lampwork beads or some gemstone beads, you might want to use less strands. So to decide how long for your wire to be, I just like to measure around my wrist. And then I leave several extra inches. I'd rather have too much wire because I can cut it off than not enough wire. And then repeat that. You just can cut all the same length of wire for however many strands that you're going to have for your bracelet. And then grab your button, and you're just going to thread all of the wire through. You're going to go up 1 button hole and back down through the other hole, and then just pull it so the wires are even on each side, so it's centered in the middle of the wires. And then from there you can start beading. Now I'm not going to go through this tutorial, to be honest with you, because you can go to my blog and I'll have a link to this exact tutorial, the one I used to make this bracelet. And the techniques for this bracelet are exactly the same as I taught you in episode 2 and episode 3. You're just going to bead these strands exactly in the same way as you did before, but it's just you're going to be beading from the button up instead. And as you finish a strand, just take a piece of tape and hold it to hold the beads on so you don't have beads flying all over the place the entire time. And that's how you do it. And then at the end, just like I showed you in episode 2 and episode 3, you're just going to finish off the bracelet with some crimp beads and crimp bead covers, just like I showed you there. The only difference is you might have a lot more strands, so you just want to make sure you're using a clasp that can accommodate for that many strands. So come to Kimberly Kohler, which is KimberlyKohler.com, and I'll put a link in the description. So if you want to do this project and you want more details in full. I really hope you liked this week's episode of ECT TV, all about buttons. Remember to come to KimberlyKohler.com and you'll get this week's show notes, which include a photographic tutorial of everything I've shown you here today. Plus, you can sign up for my newsletter while you're there, and then you can get the episode in PDF form so you can easily print it and take it to your work table and do all the projects. If you like this video, I'd love it if you give me a thumbs up and share it on Facebook, Twitter, or Pinterest. That would be great. I really appreciate it.